you guys are going to be synchronized? I'll give you both ready to, or, let's see, where did I leave off? Right there? Okay. You guys ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. 26, 27 October, 1774, after weeks of deliberation in Provincial Congress, a committee of safety was formed and appointed. Formed on the 26th, the members were appointed on the 27th, and given control of all militia in Massachusetts Bay Province. Next day, 28 October, Receiver General appointed, given control over public monies. So my comment, bullet point, therefore control is taken over both the powers of the purse and the sword. 1775, 19 April, Battle of Lexington and Concord, which I consider to be a military counterattack against the people's political takeover the summer and fall before, in 1774. Gage, he couldn't do anything. He was in fear. He would not go out to the country. He only had 2,000 British regulars in the town of Boston. And there were tens of thousands of militiamen all around Boston and elsewhere. But he was pressured from England to mount some kind of a counterattack because the political government had been taken over. So that's what he did. And when they hit Concord, they got chased all the way back to Boston. 10 May. Fort Ticonderoga in northeastern New York on Lake Champlain was captured from the British under orders of Connecticut Assembly. Orders given to Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, and concurrently orders were given by the Massachusetts Committee of Safety to Benedict Arnold, who was with the Americans at that time. 17 June, Battle of Bunker Hill. 23 June, Continental Congress appoints a committee to prepare a declaration to be published by General Washington on his arrival at camp before Boston. He was going to be camped out in Cambridge. The declaration was drafted by Thomas Jefferson and John Dickinson. 6 July, this is the declaration. Declaration by the representatives of the United Colonies of North America, now met in Congress at Philadelphia, setting forth the causes and necessity of their taking up arms, a political declaration.
Now hang on there, I'm a little confused. The 10th, May 10th, Fort Ticonderoga was captured.
That's right.
By the Green Mountain Boys, and then brought him Henry Knox. So the fort was already captured? Is that what you're saying in there? The fort was already under our control.
So May 10th, 75.
But then December 4th, 75, that's when Knox actually went.
It was already under our control. He arrived to do a job.
To go and get the cannons.
That's right. He arrived to do a job.
And that's when the Dorchester Heights battle and kicking the British out of Boston.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. So the declaration of the setting forth the cause and necessities of the taking up arms, 6 July 1775, a political declaration. July 75 through March 76, the siege of Boston, northwest and south, under the orders of General Washington. He arrived a couple of weeks after Bunker Hill. 4 December. Colonel Henry Knox arrives at Fort Ticonderoga with orders from General Washington to travel 300 miles west and deliver Fort cannons and ball. So he was ordered to go to Ticonderoga, take the cannon 300 miles, haul it back to Cambridge, Massachusetts. January 1776, oxen caravan led by Knox delivers 60 tons of cannon and ball to General Washington at Cambridge. So it was December 4th through January 26th. That was the trip, about 50-something days. Fortified March. British, overnight, the night of March 4th and March 5th. 2,000 Continental troops placed earthworks, placements, and cannon batteries on Dorchester Heights. Overnight, they did that. Those were the cannons. And they were aimed at the British Navy ships in Boston Harbor. And Dorchester Heights is in South. 17 March, British Army and Navy evacuate Boston because of the cannon. 12 June, Virginia Declaration of Rights, 1776. This is Section 13 that I mentioned before. That a well-regulated militia, composed of the body of the people, trained to arms in the proper natural and safe defense of a free state, standing out in time of peace, should be avoided as dangerous to liberty, and that in all cases, the military should be under strict subordination to and governed by the civil power. The military is always subordinate to the civil power. For July, U.S. Declaration of the 13th United States of America. And a couple of key words that we mentioned earlier. Laws of nature, nature's God. The power is the right to duty. 1777. 5th of May, First Militia Act under the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, we mentioned before the 1773 Virginia Militia Act. 1757 Virginia Militia Act. This is the first one under the new Virginia Constitution. And I had just mentioned the Virginia Declaration of Rights, or Virginia Bill of Rights, Section 13. So, this is the first part of the First Militia Act. And I'll just mention what's underlined here. Provided nothing in this act shall be construed to alter or change anything contained in the General Constitution. So the First Militia Act, basically what he's saying, doesn't change anything in the Constitution that they just approved. So the Constitution supersedes. The Virginia Constitution supersedes the Virginia Militia Act, 1777. Patrick Henry was the governor. Underlined between the ages of 16 and 50. The age in the original that's the age, the lower minimum age and the maximum age did change. But at in this particular time, it was between 16 and 50. And there are exceptions. And down below, all arms and ammunition of the militia shall be exempted from execution and distresses at all times in their persons from arrests in civil cases while going to, continuing yet, returning from muster. What does that mean? The government can't confiscate the guns. Under no circumstances can the government confiscate the guns from the people. All arms and ammunition of the militia shall be exempted from executions and distresses at all times. And then it says, under certain times, they're exempt from arrest. But at all times, they're exempt from confiscation of arms and ammunition. 1777, 1791. Laws of Confederation, signed, Federal Union signed 1777, ratified 1781 by the states, or by the provinces that hadn't become a state yet. This is important in the articles. Article 4, Clause 4. Every state shall always keep up a well-regulated and disciplined militia, sufficiently armed and accoutered, and shall provide and constantly have ready for use in public stores a due number of field pieces and tents, proper quantity of arms, ammunition, camp equipment. Well regulated. Second Amendment, disciplined militia, Clause 16. Constitution, signed, ratified, 1789. Bill of Rights was a resolution in Congress in 1789. And that resolution passed. And the states ratified 10 amendments out of the 12 that were included in the resolution. (1792). What I'm going to talk about now, these first militia acts, federal militia acts. I have these in my book. The actual picture of the statute, from the act in the statutes at large, from that date. Okay. 2 May, Militia Act. An act to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrection, and repel invasions. To enforce Clause 15. And that's basically the language of Clause 15. And I can, let me see. This is, and I'll pass this around if anyone wants to look at it. This is the May 2 Act, the amendment to the February 20, 1795, and then there's the May 8 Act. You can see the length of the acts. See, May 2 was a couple of pages here. Then there was a revision, February 28, 1775, that was 1 page. And then May 8, 1792, I got 3 pages. 8 May Militia Act, an act to more effectually to provide for national defense by establishing uniform militia throughout the United States. To enforce Clause 60, and that was the organizational clause. Clause 15 is the execution clause. This is clause the organization. So you've got 2 acts in the same month in 1792 to match the 2 clauses, clause 15 and 16 in the Constitution. 28 February, an act to provide for calling forth. It's the execution clause to repeal the act now in force. So that was a revision. February 28, 95 was a revision to the 2 May 92 Act. Now, I mentioned before what this report from the U.S. Senate said about the right to keep and bear arms in the National Guard. And that's 1903, which is commonly called the Dick Act, which is the Promote the Efficiency of the Militia Act in January 21st, 1903. But my note here that I wrote, the bullet point, the case can be made alleging that the 8 May 1792 Act is constitutionally still in effect due to the unconstitutional nature of the 1903 Act, which purported to repeal the 8 May 1792 Act. I haven't read a paper, I haven't read any studies done on that, but I claim that the 1902 Act is unconstitutional garbage, and Dr. Vieira has some choice words for it, and actually I have his new little book over there that I didn't bring over, but I'll go get that. Oh, here it's right here. This is 2013. This is a new little book by Vieira, a little pamphlet, 120 pages, 13 words. First clause of the Second Amendment. He had some very choice words of the 1903 Act that created the National Guard. So that's an interesting statement. We could be under the 1792 Act if we follow the Constitution.
Exactly right.
Okay, Tucker. I mentioned this before. Tucker's Blackstone's commentaries. I have part of that in my book on page 65. 1828. No Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language definition of militia: the body of soldiers in a state enrolled in discipline but not engaged in active service except in emergencies, as distinguished from regular troops whose sole occupation is war military service. The militia of a country are the able-bodied men organized into companies, regiments, and brigades, with officers of all grades and required by law to attend military exercises on certain days only, but at other times left to pursue their usual occupations. So that's the militia. That's the constitutional militia. Body of soldiers in a state is the body of the people, and Section 13, Virginia Bill of Rights. Militia are the able-bodied men. Able-bodied men, the body of the people. The body of the people are the able-bodied. Today would be the able-bodied men and women. Okay. What did I write here? I wrote a note here. Good definition. An organized and command structures training of 7 days matches the militia clauses 15 to 16. 1833. I post this on Facebook quite often. Section 1890, from Story's commentaries. In 1833, Justice Joseph Story, Supreme Court Justice. Very, very good, very short commentary on the Second Amendment. And 10th Amendment Center, when they quote on this, I've seen it several times. They take only the right to keep and bear arms section, but I've got the whole thing here. And I don't know if you want me to read the whole thing. I can read it quickly. The importance of this article will scarcely be doubted by any persons who have duly reflected upon the subject. That's the Second Amendment. The militia is the natural defense of a free country against sudden foreign invasions, domestic insurrections, and domestic usurpations of power by rulers. It is against sound policy for a free people to keep up large military establishments and standing armies in time of peace, both from the enormous expenses, DOD budget, with which they are attended, and the facile means which they afford to ambitious and unprincipled rulers to subvert the government or trample upon the rights of the people. The right of the citizens to keep and bear arms has just been considered as the palladium of the liberties of a republic. Since it offers a strong moral check against the usurpation and arbitrary power of rulers, and will generally, even if these are successful in the first instance, enable the people to resist and triumph over them. And yet, though this truth would seem so clear, any influence of a well-regulated militia would seem so undeniable, it cannot be disguised that among the American people there is a growing indifference to any system of militia discipline. This is in 1833. And a strong disposition from a sense of its burdens. Burdens is burdens. Really spelling of burdens. To be rid of all regulations. How it is practicable to keep the people duly armed without some organization, it is difficult to see. How do we stop gun control if we don't have a well-regulated militia? There is certainly no small danger that indifference may lead to disgust to contempt, and thus gradually undermine all the protection intended by this clause of our National Bill of Rights. I have a bullet point there, but it's not on my sheet here. Okay, I make a comment. The militia is the natural defense of a free country against domestic insurrections and domestic usurpations of powers by rulers. Story gives a warning on indifference to any system of militia discipline and the result of the indifference. Undermine all protection intended by this clause of our National Bill of Rights. Story predicted correctly what would happen. Will people today take heed and turn that around? 1850. Okay, I gave a class this year, Camp Constitution, on this book. Frederick Bassett, Principal Economist, he wrote this pamphlet called The Law in 1850. 2 years before that, Karl Marx had published the Communist Manifesto. And I have two, the Von Mises Institute publishes this version. These are two different translations from French to English. And this one that I use at Camp Constitution, and this is the one that's online. This version is, you can get it online. This is published by the Foundation for the Free or the Foundation for Economic Education. And I got some select quotes from Bastiat. Life, liberty, and property do not exist because men have made laws. On the contrary, it was the fact that life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that caused men to make laws in the first place. What then is the law? It is the collective organization of the natural right to lawful defense that existed before law. It is the substitution of a common force for individual forces. And this common force is to do only what the individual forces have a natural right and lawful right to do, to protect persons, liberties, and properties. Law is the common force organized to prevent injustice. In short, law is justice. So, if we take the handout of the quotes, Constitution Preamble, in the Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, provides for common defense. Common defense of what? Well, Bastiat, Samuel Adams told us in The Right to the Colonists, Bastiat telling us again in 1850. The collective, common force in collective organization to prevent injustice, to protect persons, liberties, and properties. That's the common defense to do that. He's claiming that is the law. So you could easily substitute everywhere where it mentions the law and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You could substitute the common defense of rights, common defense of life, liberty, and property as the law. Bastiat's common force and collective organization, I'm saying as a common defense of Hobbes, Locke, Samuel Adams, and the common defense purpose stated in the Constitution's preamble, and the power to provide for, organize, and execute the laws. Common defense of Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 1, 15, and 16. 1903, 21 January 1903, enacted to promote the efficiency of the militia, a.k.a. the Dick Act. Congressman Charles Dick of Ohio, chair of the House Militia Affairs Committee. The Act falsely alleges the constitutional existence of a reserve militia, which is nowhere mentioned there in the Constitution. The Act statutorily creates the National Guard, and it alleges the National Guard to be the organized militia. Well, what did the Virginia Bill of Rights, Section 13 say? The militia is the body of the people. And Clause 16 says the militia to be organized, armed, disciplined. So Clause 16 says the militia is to be organized, and the militia is the body of the people. But here, and this excerpts from this 1903 statute. There's a page in my book here on that. It says it created a reserve militia. Like to be the National Guard. It says that the National Guard is the organized militia now, which therefore disbanded, unorganized, and unauthorized the body of the people, because now only the NG, the National Guard, is the organized militia, not the people. But the people are the sovereign. Why is Congress taking that power away from the sovereign, when the sovereign is supposed to be in charge? Alleging us to be violating the mandates of Clause 15, Second Amendment, 10th Amendment. The states fell in line, they passed, all the states passed their own statutes, similar to the Dick Act, which are repugnant. Then the 1913 Federal Reserve money system, transferred the money system to a private banking cartel. 1960 National Defense Act. The reason I have this in here is because they changed the language included in this NDA, which is now the NDAA, they call it now. But back then it was the NDA. Now it's called the National Defense Appropriations Act. Another repugnant statute, this part of it, further relegated the body of we the people and alleges us to be the oxymoronic, unorganized militia. So what they did, they substituted the phrase unorganized militia for reserve militia. In 1903, it said reserve militia. Now, the people are the unorganized militia. But Clause 16 says the militia to be organized. So why is this saying the militia is an unorganized militia? The word unorganized isn't anywhere in the Constitution. And that act, they federalized the state national guard. 1979. FEMA created by executive order, which executive order technically only applies to the executive branch of government. It doesn't apply to the population fund. President Carter's 1979 EO merged many of the separate disaster-related responsibilities into a federal emergency management agency. Civil defense responsibilities transferred to the new FEMA from the DOD's former Defense Civil Preparedness Agency. This is all from FEMA.gov website. In my comment, Clause 15 of the Second Amendment and other related clauses enumerate these emergency powers and duties to belong to the militia of the several states.
Could you even throw in the 10th Amendment there? I mean, because of disaster that happens in a particular part of the country, it's not a federalized problem. The state itself is...
The people compose the militia,
right,
and it's the militia of the states. And the 10th says powers not delegated to the United States are reserved to the states and the people.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes,
Yeah.
it would be an exercise of the 10th Amendment power when they're called forth.
And the state reserves the right to actually go to the federal government and say we need help, or not to go to the federal government and say
They could say,
that we don't.
they could have the president to call forth the militia.
Right.
In other words, several states all at once,
Right.
instead of just one state calling itself.
Whereas now, today, something happens, the very first thing people think of is, where's FEMA?
Right. And they always screw it up.
Yeah.
Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane...
I know, the list goes on and on.
Yeah,
They did them. They didn't screw them up. They did it.
probably.
It was all planned and executed.
1970, okay, where are we? 2001, 2005, a month after 9/11, the U.S. Patriot Act was passed by Congress. They must have wrote it really quick.
Yeah. It was incredible.
Less than 30 days, in passed. 2002, the next year, this is also from FEMA.gov, the website. March 2003, FEMA joined 22 other federal agencies, programs, and offices in becoming the Department of Homeland Security. The new DHS coordinated approach to national security from emergencies and disasters, natural and man-made. That's what FEMA is saying. My comment, Clause 15, Second Amendment, other related clauses enumerate constitutional security powers to be under the militia of the several states. There's a book over the table there, one of Dr. Vera's books. The title of the book is Constitutional Homeland Security. And he's talking about revitalizing the militia of the several states. Dr. Viera publishes his revised edition of Pieces of Aid, which is about the power of the purse and the history of money. He published a reprint. The News that Views archive, he has short commentaries that are mentioned in there in 2011. I bought a copy in 2011. It's a 2-volume set. 1,700 pages. 8 March 2005. Dr. Vieira, he publishes his first short commentary on Homeland Security at newswithviews.com. Now, right around the same time, late March, that was 8 March. In late March 2005, the heads of state of Canada, Mexico, and USA signed the SPP agreement. I forget the name of. Anybody remember what those? That acronym?
No.
But it was a trade and security agreement, and the quote for mutual prosperity and security. May 2005, CFR publishes, Council of Foreign Relations publishes, Building a North American Community. March, April, May, 2 months later. Recommending establishment by 2010 of a North American Economic and Security Community, modeled after the European Economic Community, which morphed and became the European Union, which now exists and has its own government. That's what they were suggesting in here, and that was in the agenda of the meeting that the President of the United States, Mexico, and Prime Minister of Canada, when they met in Texas. So Dr. Vieira, he starts publishing earlier in March, first commentary on Homeland Security. 2006, 7, Post-Katrina Emergency Reform Act. The act significantly reorganized FEMA, providing a substantial new authority since they did such a good job in New Orleans. We're going to give FEMA all kinds of new powers to remedy gaps that became apparent in response to Hurricane Katrina in August 2005. That's from their website, FEMA.gov. My comment? Where is my comment? Is it up there? There it is. Clause 15, Second Amendment, and other related clauses enumerate constitutional security powers too, militia and civil. 2005 to present, Dr. Vieira continues posting regular short commentaries at newsandviews.com. 2007, Dr. Vieira publishes Constitutional Homeland Security Volume 1, The Nation in Arms. The book proves that Homeland Security duties fall under the constitutional powers of the militia of several states. It proposes that people organize themselves locally and private. Let's see. Constitutional Homeland Security Associations for the purposes of developing a grassroots movement to revitalize the now disbanded militia of the several states, to be composed of the body of the people. 2011 to present. Dr. Vieira publishes reprint, The Pieces of Eight. 2012, Sword and Sovereignty, the Constitutional Principles of the Militia of the Several States. 2,300 pages. I have the CD here, but it's a CD, and it's got about, 5,000, 6,000 footnotes, something like that. And the CD is available on Amazon. This would be something. This would be something like for state legislators when they need a good resource when they're writing a bill to restore the militia, revitalize the militia. All the information, they can go right there.
If they read it, they're going to read the bills.
2013, Law and Love, which all keepers played a big part. James Yeager and Edward Vieira, Jr., documentary film on the constitutional principles of the Second Amendment, which I recommend that film. Video. I think you can still get it on YouTube. Maybe. 2013, my book, Execute Laws, Restore the Republic. 2013, 13 Words by Dr. Vieira. This is on Amazon. I'm going to try to see if I can get a bunch of these from him and maybe have stock of them for people that I may come across that don't do business with Amazon. Tool Side the President, and American Teams publishing regular show commentaries. Websites. Newsandviews.com, that's his archive at Vieira/Edwin, capital A, for archive, HTM. ForceOutConstitution.com, that's my blog website. ConstitutionalMilitia.org, there's a Facebook page and a website that they're affiliated, they're friendly with Dr. Vieira, but it's an anonymous person, maybe anonymous. But they have real good information and artwork on there. Milan.us, that's to go information about the movie, Jagger's movie, Milan Love. RT2A, that's Website, I get involved in that, starting that website, it's now run by a guy down in Florida, David Callen, and an attorney from Kansas, Richard Fry. He's involved with this, plus Richard Fry is involved with promoting, with Hal Shortlift, same thing, promoting the dangers of the Constitution Convention. Website's under construction, and I have domains, executelaw.com for the books, committeesofcorrespondence.org. Conclusion, goals and benefits of the title of this presentation, goals and benefits of restoring necessary enforcement of our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Forms of domestic security to be implemented upon revitalization of the militia of several states per constitutional imperatives. Economic and money system security, election security, national and major disaster security, border security, including immigration, trade, property security, resources security, freedom security, to be facilitated as soon as possible, directly after restoring the militia would be restoration of constitutional money operations at the state level per Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. Now, what did I say before about that clause? Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. No state shall make anything but gold, silver, coin, tender, and payment of debts. No state. Okay. Levels of enforcement to be implemented. True laws executed when necessary. When necessary, we're going to take it from the Second Amendment. The law is necessary to the security of the free state. Federal and state constitutions. Federal, state, local laws made in pursuance thereof to be enforced. Because the Constitution is under the laws, it's the supreme law, that will be enforced. False laws will be suppressed and repelled when necessary. In other words, constitutional enforcement, constitutional money, and constitutional security will be a goal and benefit and restored. Conclusion continues. Method to achieve American restoration. Being immersed in study of these specific constitutional principles, a conclusion was reached that the only solution, possessing the enumerated manpower and authority to stop tyranny and usurpation at any level, is to revitalize by state statutes the militia of the several states composed of the body of the people. We are the sovereign. Constitutional militia will both enforce the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and provide domestic security. There is zero legitimacy to the bogus argument in con that we must sacrifice liberty for security, unquote. Zero legitimacy to that. We can have both. We can have total liberty and total security at the same time. Historic principles and instructions have already been determined and written. We merely need to command the subject matter and then apply it. The necessities. Form grassroots official public committees of correspondence following historic precedent from the street, block, precinct levels, and build on up. These would be official committees of correspondence, modeled after the first one in Boston, started by Samuel Adams. But it would be at the lower level in a town, it would be at the street, really grassroots. In people that you know on your street, in your neighborhood, in your precinct, on your block, and claim, just like in Boston, you have 22 wards, and those wards are each divided up into precincts. And they have these organizations called the Ward 20 Republican Committee, the Ward 20 Democratic Committee. Well, we're going to be the Ward 20 Committee of Correspondence. It's going to be official. Not a private group calling itself a militia. It's going to be an official organization for the same purposes that the original Committees of Correspondence was to learn the subject matter, write reports, on stating reasserting our rights in the grievances, just like the report, just like the declaration, and give the report as it'd be an official report by this body, this committee, communicated to other committees and communicated to the elected officials as representative of that block, that street, that precinct, that ward, what have you. And this is a way for we the people of Sodom, this is a way for to start reasserting ourselves as single units rather than individuals like I was in 2009 at the State House. But we had a bunch of people behind me like yourself.
Did a lot of good work.
Right.
Yes, at the state house.
And facilitate learning. Committees to write reports to publicly research rights and grievances, as I just said, communicate with other committees, to advocate in committee communication to elected officials. 4, advocate for necessary constitutional security and safety, write and advocate for the necessary legislation, which can be done in one statute, and then another bill right to follow that to restore constitutional money. That could be called the economic security bill. In Massachusetts, there's Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 33. The title of that is militia. But in that chapter, it's all about the National Guard. So what we can do is we could take the National Guard word phrase out and substitute the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I know that's a lot. That was the reason that I grabbed that domain that was available, committeesofcorrespondence.org, because I'm a person who I believe in following history, and we have a historical precedent. It's already been written. It's already, you just take it and just repod the same thing, and rather than me trying to reinvent the wheel, like Vieira is talking about these constitutional Homeland Security Associations, which this is a new thing. But I like that too. But that's a committee safety. It's like a committee safety kind of thing. But I like using the old stuff. Committee correspondence. It's got history behind it. And when you go communicate with the legislator, committee correspondence, you can prove it's already been done and it was successful. And what the concern is we're concerned about in a lot of the prognosticators on Wall Street, on the internet, they're talking about a future major economic event because of the devaluation of the dollar, the perspective. They're looking at all the warning signs, and this is what they think is going to happen. And in addition to that, we're seeing our rights we've seen powers usurped where they're executing powers that they don't have. And we're seeing our rights violated, left and right. So I believe we should start trying to put together, or at least put the idea out there, organizing officially, not just as private people, organized officially at the very bottom grassroots, and just try to do it in the neighborhood. Even if it's only 2 people on the street. I mean, you got to start somewhere. So, Vinny, thanks for the invite. Thank you, Wayne.
It's okay.
Wasn't that Security Prosperity Partnership?
Yes.
George Bush.
Security Prosperity Partnership. That's what
That was for the North American Unity